Namaskar. Welcome to this fourth and the final session of the second Adhyaya of Sri Bhagavad Gita. We start with our gratitude towards the Lord, with whose grace everything is possible. We pay tributes to the Guru Shishya Parampara, through which this knowledge is preserved and transmitted through generations. I pay my respects to my Guruji, Pujya Guruma, with whose grace I am able to learn the scriptures and share this understanding with you. We start with a prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So the second Adhyaya is the main summary of the crux of the message of Lord Shree Krishna. When initially in the first 10 shlokas, Arjuna's condition is described. He's in Vishada, he's in sorrow, he's in grief, he's unable to fight, he's unable to decide, and he accepts the Shishyatva, disciplehood of Lord Krishna. And then from the 11th shloka, Lord Krishna starts his message. Initially he shows him the goal, the final goal, what we need to understand, what is the real understanding that we need to have. He shows Arjuna the Atma, Anatma, Viveka. What is Atma? What is Anatma? And all this that is transient, what is destructible, is all Anatma. He says this body, this mind, all this is Anatma. Whereas Atma Tattva is Nainam Chindanti Shastrani. He shows in all the different ways it is indestructible, it remains the same, it is Nitya, it is Sarvagata, it is Thanu, it is Achala, it is Aja, Ajara, Amara, it is unborn, it does not die ever. And that is the real understanding Viveka, where we have to understand the Atma Gnana. Atma Gnana is essentially our own original self. What are we? Who are we? And this is the understanding that we need to understand. And only with this understanding, and then finally understanding that I am the same as the universal existence, the Brahma Gnana. And that is the cause for our freedom, our moksha from all our limitations that we affect. But before we reach to this stage, the most important step is the Antakarana Shuddhi, the cleansing of our mind, of all the Raga, Dvesha, Ajnana, and all the vices, Asuri, Sampatti, all the Rajo, Tamo, Guna, all has to be cleared. And this part of the sadhana, this is the journey, is one of the most important, because most of the time happens in the Shuddhi, in this purity of our mind, our inner mind, which needs to be purified. And this Shuddhi is an essential part of our journey, and Bhagavan is describing this journey also. He shows us the different means, the sadhana, how to attain this goal, the Siddhi. But at the same time also, Vedanta explains us that there are three main types of obstacles why we do not understand this goal, why we do not understand what Lord Shri Krishna is telling us in Gita Ji. The main first is the impurity, the mala, the strong likes and dislikes, Raga, Dvesha, and this can only be taken care by the path of action, Karma Yoga. So from the 38th shloka onwards, Bhagavan starts describing the Karma Yoga, Sukha Dukkhe Same Krutva, Labha Labho Jaya Jao, and then he describes the Karmanye Vadikaraste, and then Yogastha Kuru Karmani, Buddhau Sharanam Anvicha. All these attitudes of Karma Yoga were described in the second Adhyaya. And in the vision of the Lord, Karma is not without Bhakti. Karma Yoga itself means that there is a place of the Lord, there is some devotion involved, Ishvara Arpana Bhavana, when we do the karma, when we get the prasada buddhi, when we get the results. So this is essentially devotion to the Lord, and this takes care of the vikshepa, our wavering mind. The chanchalatva of our mind is our second biggest obstacle, which is taken care by the devotion to the Lord, by the worship to the Lord, and which is also called as a bhakti yoga. But the final passage, the final path to the divine is the knowledge. And according to Vedanta, there is no other option but to attain the divine by knowledge. Karma and bhakti are essentially the sadhanas which help us to purify ourselves. And finally, the last path is the same. There is only one way to the divine, and that way is through the knowledge. And this knowledge is not the worldly knowledge that we understand. This is not the knowledge that we can get from Google or from other books or from this is the divine knowledge that we get from our Upanishads, from our learned gurus. We get this divine knowledge of our own self, and this takes care of our ajnana, the avarana, the veil of ignorance that is there in us, that has to be peeled off. So gradually we start peeling off the layers. That's why this sadhana, this spiritual journey is one of peeling the layers. It is one of letting go of all the misconceptions, misinterpretations that we have in our mind about our own self, about the world, about the people, about the sansara, about the Ishvara. All these misconceptions have to be, and then only once this ajnana is relieved, what remains is the gnana, param gnana swarupa, that we are eternally. And this is where we understand that I am myself, I am the divinity. So initially Bhagavan described the steps of karma yoga. Just to recollect, first is from inaction, from laziness. We have to spring into action. We have to get into action. We have to do karma. Without karma, nobody can attain its siddhi. So purushartha, our own prayatna, our efforts are fundamentally the most important. And this karma then has to be done in the right way. Dharma karma, not according to my own likes and dislikes, not according to my raga dvesha, but according to my dharma, what is the right thing to do, what is not the right thing to do. And this dharma, samanya dharma, we all know what is the right thing to do, but our shastra, our scriptures are the ultimate evidence for what is the dharma karma, what is the right way of doing it. Karma yoga is the, essentially we have to get into the mode of doing nishkam karma. And this nishkam karma is selfless action without attachment to the fruits of the action, the karma phala. Asakti, Bhagavan has already said, phalam tyaktva, sangam tyaktva, all this attachment to the karma phala, we have to let go, because that is the department of the Lord. He has designed this, He has determined what karma will give what phala. That is not something that we can decide. That's why we should not feel helpless about it. We should just accept what is the reality. This is the reality of the life. It is not dependent on me, and that's why I must accept it like a prasada buddhi, like a prasada from the Lord, when I understand that this is what is given to me by the Lord. And this essentially is a bhakti yoga, devotion, surrender to the divine, surrender all our actions to the divine. It can also involve a lot of other divine, bhakti related actions like japa, nama, chanting, puja, archana, arati, all these tirtha yatra, all these bhakti related or divinity related work, also karma, also will be part of this bhakti yoga. And with this we will purify ours and then ultimately go to the final goal. So in this next shloka, Bhagavan talks about the final goal after antakarana shuddhi from karma yoga. He says, karmajam buddhi yuktai, by actions, by your attitude of karma yoga, phalam tyaktva, let go of the attachments with the fruits of the action, manishinaha, one who has conquered his mind by his own intellect, janma bandha vinirmukta, is liberated from birth and death, and attains the highest self, the anamaya pada, which has no afflictions, there is no pain, there is no misery, because it shows us our real swarupa, our own atma swarupa, which is highest self, and that itself gives us the moksha or the freedom. And then Bhagavan is talking about the Gnana Sadhana, the 2 steps of the Gnana Sadhana. In very nutshell, is describing this Gnana Sadhana from Karma Yoga to the knowledge, to the final stage. The Brahmi Sthiti is describing in just 2 steps here in Geeta ji, in the 2nd Adhyaya. In the 18th Adhyaya, he will describe it in a little bit more detail, this part. But essentially, this is the part which is much more in-depth covered in the Upanishads and in the other Prakaran Grantha of our scriptures. In Bhagavad Gita, the path of karma is more better covered, because the eligibility, the adhikaritva, are the people, regular people like us, who are not the people who have attained so much of sannyasa, vairagya, and that's why it is mainly for the householder, the message where we understand how we can, remaining in our work, we can attain to the divine by the karma yoga. So in Yada, so the first step is the eligibility to get the Atma Jnana, and that is by the 4 main sadhanas, Viveka, Vairagya, Shama Adi Shat Sampatti and Mumuksha. This is called the Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti. And here Bhagavan says, Yada tu moha kalilam buddhi vyatitarishati. When you, with your intellect, you are able to cross this mud of attachment. Kalila, moha is like a kalila. Kalila is the mud, or sometimes if our feet gets into the mud which is thick or deep, it's very difficult for us to get out. Similarly, moha is very difficult for us to come out from. That's why we need help of our buddhi, or sometimes buddhiman purusha like a guru or shastra. So with this we can cross over the mud of attachment, and then we can tadagantasi nirvedam, then we can attain the dispassion, the vairagya, and then Ultimately, this Vairagya itself is the understanding, the right understanding, maturity with which we accept the way the reality is. We can handle our own self with free from turmoils, and that with this we can get to the next step of the Gnana Sadhana. And the final step of the Gnana Sadhana journey to the divine is by 3 steps: Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. And Shruti Pratipannate, any doubts that are created after listening to the scriptures from the Guru by Shravana, this is the first and the most important step, because Shravana gives us the Gnana. But then there are a lot of Sanshaya, there are a lot of doubts, and these doubts have to be cleared by the logic which has been described in the scriptures, and this is by our own intellect, which is called the process of Manana. And then once this is done, the third step is Nididhyasana, when our intellect, our mind becomes very steady in the Atma Tattva during meditation. We can remain quiet, still. Our mind does not wander outside in the objects of the world. And this helps us to take care of our Viparyaya. Viparyaya are our opposite samskaras. So once this is taken care, then that knowledge which we have heard during Shravana becomes firm, established, and then it becomes then Bhagavan says you will achieve this yoga. This yoga is the Sthitapragnya state. The Sthita means the steadiness of the knowledge which is assimilated in us, and with this we are able to live our life. With this knowledge, which is this divine knowledge, we can live our life. So this Sthitapragnya state, the state of firm wisdom, Sthitapragnya, these are the two words. Sthita means very steady, very firm, steadfast. Pragnya means knowledge. And as Bhagavan has repeatedly described, without knowledge, there is no way we can have this understanding. So knowledge is the ultimate way to the divine. It's a very clear understanding, and only with this we can have this steadiness or firmness in our wisdom or knowledge. So this last 18 shlokas of the second Adhyayas are about the Sthitapragnya part of the second Adhyaya, which are the characteristics of this wise person who is rooted deeply, firmly in the wisdom. So that knowledge is very firmly rooted, and with this he or she lives in this world. And this is the ultimate knowledge of the Atma Swarupa, the fullness, which is the Paripurna. He is completely full. And later part, Bhagavan describes how his sthiti is like Apuryamana Machala Pratishtam, is like an ocean, Paripurna, completely full, brimful with joy. And this internal attitude, the right understanding, helps him to live in a certain way, which Bhagavan is describing here, where there is complete acceptance of what is. There is no complaint, there is complete peace, is at eternal, he or she is at eternal peace. And for the seekers like us, it is a very important chapter, it is a very important part, because it shows us the goal for us, where we have to reach. It also helps us in our journey to introspect ourselves, where have we reached, and serves as a milestone for us in our journey. And many books have been written on this Sthitapragnya chapter by Vinoba Bhave, Gandhiji, and others, and it is a very, very important part of the second Adhyaya. So let us start with the Sthitapragnya part. Arjuna starts with Arjuna's question, and his question is fourfold question. There are 4 questions embedded in one verse, and his question is very innocent. He wants to know, Bhagavan, whether such a person is ever there, can be there, and what are the characteristics? How can I recognize such a person if I meet some person like this who is Sthitapragnya? So Arjuna Uvacha Sthitapragnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthitadihi kim prabhasheta kimasita pracheta kim. So his first question, the first line, if you see, Sthitapragnasya ka bhasha. What is the language of Sthitapragnya? Samadhistasya keshava. Samadhistha means samadhi kal. So Sthitapragnya person, he is either in a samadhi kal. Samadhi kal is during his climax of his meditation, when the drashta, drashya, and everything becomes one. So there is nothing like, there is nothing like the triad. Everything becomes one. The dhyaya, the goal, the dhyata, and the dhyana. Everything, when it becomes one, it is considered a sthiti of samadhi. So in this kala, the first question he asks, ka bhasha, what is the language? Ka bhasha means, but here Bhagavan answers from what are his lakshana, how does he attain this state, and what are these characteristics, what are the attributes. Bhagavan answers from that perspective. The second question is Sthitapragnasya kim sthitadihi, kim prabhasheta. What would he speak? What is his speech? What is his response? Bhagavan is answering. Kim asita, how does he sit? That is the third question. And Sthitati means the Sthita Purusha. How does what is his mind? What is his control? If they is faced with situations, how does he control himself? And finally, Kim Rajeta. Kim Rajeta means how would that person walk? What is the conduct in the life? So the last three questions are related to the Vyavhara Kala. Vyavhara Kala means when this Sthitapragna person lives in this world, how does he conduct? How does he respond? What is the status of the mind? That is what Arjuna wishes to know. And in the Samadhi Kala, there is one question. So Bhagavan starts answering one by one all the four questions. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Prajahati Yata Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atman Yevatmana Tushtaha Sthitapragnastadochyate. So this is the answer to the first question. Sthitapragnasya ka bhasha. What is his language? What are the attributes? What makes him that person in the Samadhi Kala? So Bhagavan says, Yada, when. Yada and Tada is when and okay. Then, when and then. That is how in Sanskrit, Yada, Sarvan Kaman, all the desires, Manogatan, when they arise in the mind, Manah Agatan, Prajahati, they are given up. So whenever all these desires in the person's Sthitapragnya Purush, it is not that in Samadhi Kala it does not get some thoughts. He may have got some thoughts, but with the understanding, the right kind of internal knowledge that this person has, Prajahati gives up all these unnecessary desires are given up, and all these binding desires are given up by the Sthitapragnya person. And how does he give up? Bhagavan says, Atmani eva atmana tushtaha, because that person is satisfied, is happy with one's own self alone, completely satisfied with one's own Atma Swarupa, knows that my own Swarupa is that of eternal joy, it is Ananda Swarupa, and that is the real bliss that I have with myself. I don't need other outside external objects, persons, people, places for me to become happy. That is the understanding of this person, and with this understanding, all the desires, they are given up. Sthitapragnya uchyate, then that person is called to be a firmly ascertained, steadfast in this knowledge, the divine knowledge, and that person is called a Sthitapragnya Purusha. So that is how Bhagavan defines a Sthitapragnya, when all the Sarvan Kaman Manogatan, all the binding desires are given up. Now here in Gita Ji, when Bhagavan is talking about this Sarvan Kaman, means the binding desires. Some of the desires are binding, some of the desires are not very binding. Say for example, some of desires are even elevating for us. For example, when we want to understand Gita Ji and we come to Gita Ji and listen and understand, try to understand, these are all the desires which are not binding for us. They don't bind us, they help us elevate. Say for example, Sri Ved Vyasa Ji had a desire to write Mahabharata and put the Gita Ji within the Mahabharata. That was an elevating desire. It is not a binding desire. But the binding desires of our scriptures tell us that they are of three types. And from all these three basic desires, all the other desires spring up. First and the foremost is called Vitteshana, desire for wealth and desire for money, which is binding to us in this world, in the Sansara Chakra. And all of our insecurities make us, yearn and seek for more and more wealth, more and more money. But more and more money does not make us more and more secure. So we yearn and seek for more and more wealth and money. This is called Vitteshana. The second is Lokeshana. Lokeshana means desire for a lot of name, fame. Everybody wants to be known by others. Everybody wants to become famous. So this desire in all of us, in each one of us, to be known by others, to be recognized for our work, to be appreciated for our whatever we are doing, is called Lokeshana. And the third desire is called Putreshana. Putreshana, Putra Ishana. Ishana is desire. And Putra Icha means for our family, our progeny to be continued, to have a child, to have a family, to have this kind of a desire for our continuity of our family, so that we can remain eternal, our family name can remain there. Some people will have a desire for even a male child just from the Viparaya or Viparit Sanskara. But these desires keep us working in our life, and this kind of desires are the binding desires. And Bhagavan tells us that this person, Sthitapragnya, does not have any of these three desires. Sarvan Kaman Manogatan. All the types of binding desires are relieved. And Bhagavan doesn't say that he doesn't have those desires. Bhagavan says, Sarvan manogatan prajahati, means when they do arise in the mind, but with the right understanding, they are given up. It is not that they don't have desires, but these desires don't engulf them and don't produce the problems that generally people like us have these kind of issues. So what is this? The second question, Kim Prabhasheta. How does this person speak or respond in life? And this is during the lifetime, because in life, this person will also have to meet with a lot of situations, circumstances which will give him sukha, dukkha, sometimes happiness, sometimes dukkha, pain, miseries, disease related, death related, whatever, all the other different types of injuries or the, all the other problems that may come with for any other person. How does this person manage this? How does this person respond to these situations? Bhagavan answers, Dukkeshvanudvigna manaha sukheshu vigataspruhaha vitaraga bhaya krodha stitadhir muniruchyate. Bhagavan says, Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha. This person is not agitated in grief or sorrow. Yes, there will be circumstances where he or she will get, whenever I say he, also means could be she also, that person could be anyone, gets agitated, does not get agitated in grief or sorrow. This person may get situations where there will be grief, there will be sadness, there will be sorrow, like any other person or like us, any one of us. But that person does not get much agitated. And what is that? Because of the understanding, the right understanding that is there in the mind, by understanding. And whenever he or she gets the circumstances of sukha, sukheshu vikata spruhaha, does not have too much of longing, attachment to happiness, does not get too overjoyed by the happiness that that person gets. Yes, he will become happy. There's some good news. He or she will become happy, will have compassion for others. Their joy will be there. But there is no dance of joy. There is nothing like longing or attachment because of that joy. That is the difference in this person. Vita raga bhaya krodha. Vita raga. Raga means attachment. Raga means affiliation, strong attachment, and that is Vita. Vita means this person is free of raga. Similarly, and this is by the right understanding, because this person does not have raga, dvesha, but because this person knows that himself is the Atma Swarupa, the Ananda Swarupa, and this person does not have any bhaya, Vita bhaya. All this fear is also gone. There is no bhaya. This person is abhaya, pada, because this person knows his true self, that is Nitya, it is Sarvagata, it is Thanu, it is always going to be there, it is never born, it is never dies. And with this understanding, that person doesn't have bhaya of destruction, bhaya of death, bhaya of disease, bhaya of all these different types of bhaya that we have. Those bhaya or those fears are not there in this person. Krodha. Krodha means anger. And this person is also free from anger, does not get angry. Yes, sometimes may in the Vyavhar Kal become angry, but it's all under the control. And that becomes, that anger is not there because those desires are not there, so that they don't make that person angry. Siddhadihi Muni Uchyate. That white person who is not agitated remains samatva in grief, sorrow, happiness, joy. There is no attachment, who is free from all these attachment, fear and anger. That person, that Muni. Muni means Manana Shila, one who has a mind under control, under this kind of a very balanced, restrained mind. And that person who is a Manan Shila, who keeps thinking, has a lot of viveka, vichara, and the right understanding is a Sthitapragnya. So this process, how in dukkha or sukha, these are the two dualities that we constantly face in our life. And in this dualities, how can we remain equipoised, samatva? And for this, Guruma teaches us what is actually dukkha and sukha, how we perceive them, how do we respond to them. We need to go a little detail into understanding this. So for sukha dukkha, the first step is what is called as the nimitta, the instrumental cause through which we perceive the sukha dukkha, how by which it comes. There may be a situation, maybe a circumstances, maybe somebody has told us something insulting, and we get dukkha or misery. It could be some good result, some good promotion, education, some wealth, some profit. It could be anything. Some nimitta is there for any sukha or dukkha to come. And then there is something called vritti. So vritti is something that is essential for any kind of a gnana. So our Vedanta tells us that any gnana, any knowledge that we have of the external environment is through vritti. It is all vritti janya. Even for a very sukshma things like subtle things like sukha dukha, which are not seen but which are perceived in our mind, also there is vritti through which we perceive this sukha and dukkha. And the third is what is called as a tadatmya, the association. And with this association of our feelings, our vritti, we identify with this and we believe that, I am sukha, I am dukkha, I am dukhi, or I am sukhi, means I am unhappy or I am happy. And this is the understanding of the ajnani, the unwise person who is ignorant, does not know. And this is normally most of us believe that I am dukhi, I'm so happy, I'm so sad. This is how we feel. And we identify with this tadatmya is very strong. Whereas for the wise person, though that instrumental cause is there, the vritti also arises, but that association, that tadatmya does not happen. That fusion, which is called in psychology terms, that fusion of association does not happen. And this is by an understanding that the wise person believes that I am the drashta, I am the observer of this body, this pain, this pleasure, this sukha, dukkha, all is something that I'm not the person, does not get identified, that association is not there. And with this understanding, the wise person feels that this pain is, yes, in my body when there is an injury or an incision or a surgery, but in the mind there is, it is there in the mind. If somebody becomes disrespectful, but understands that I am the observer of all these pain, pleasure, dualities, I am not affiliated or associated with this. And with this understanding, that person can remain equipoised, sama, in this sukha and dukkha. In the next shloka, Bhagavan explains about the differences between affection, love, attachment. Yah sarvatra anabhisneha tat tat prapya shubha shubham nabhinandati natveshti tasya pragnya pratisthita. Yah sarvatra anabhisneha. This person lives in this world without much of attachment. There is, yes, sneha is there, but abhisneha is not there. Ana abhisneha means without much attachment. So affection is there, compassion is there, love is there, joy is there, but this does not make that person attached to this world. Tat tat prapya shubha shubham, because this person will also encounter many pleasant, unpleasant circumstances in the life. It is not that these circumstances will not come, but how does that person respond to it? Na abhinandati, does not rejoice too much. Whenever there is a good news, does not rejoice too much, does not dance with joy too much. Na dveshti, or does not hate anyone. If somebody disrespects that person or says something irrelevant, then that person is not, na dvesh. Dvesha means does not have any hate for anyone, no dvesha with anyone. Tasya pragnya pratishtita, that person's knowledge becomes firm. That is a Sthitapragnya person who does not get too attached in all circumstances, does not have, emotions, rages, or emotional turmoils of getting too overjoyed or hating too much, getting too depressed, too emotionally upset. Emotions don't play a very, very great role because understanding is there, that knowledge is there, and that makes that person knowledgeable, which remains firm and steadfast, and that is the quality of a Sthitapragnya person. Explaining this further, Guru Maharaj tells us that love and sneh is very important. It's a very natural, it's a very beautiful emotion that is there in all of us. And love is a virtue so far then it is non-discriminating, that it does not discriminate between people, that I love somebody more, I love somebody less, and it is selfless. It is not that I love someone just because somebody would appreciate or reciprocate that love. Till that time, love is a virtue. But when it becomes kind of a restricting, when it becomes limiting, when it becomes expecting, then it starts creating all the problems. The other is what is called as abhisneha, too much of love, too much of affection, which leads into attachment. So that attachment means that I cannot live without person, or I cannot live without that object, or I have a strong affinity or attachment to this, which actually becomes controlling, because then that person, that object starts controlling, and then there is an element of possessiveness. You want to control that, and then there is a discrimination because there is more love to one, there is and that controls all my other decisions and my other emotions in life. And then I try to become more and more selfish, that I think that I love somebody because that person loves me. That selfishness comes up. This abhisneha, Bhagavan says, is not something which is very healthy. And abhisneha leads to moha. Moha is a delusion, because that completely discolors or changes our vision. We are not able to see what is the reality. This creates many, many problems and miseries and pain in our life. And that's why Guru Maharaj tells us that we should love all, treat everyone equally, starting at home and at the workplace, especially people who are working under us, people who are working for us. Those are the people who, are doing all this, helping us in, so that we are able to do our work. We should be really, respecting them and respecting their work and loving them equally. So for all of us seekers, Guruji tells us to think, have some viveka regarding pain and pleasure, because these are the two very important dualities of our life which keep us, bonded to this world. And this are due to our destiny. These are not something that, that person is bringing to me, but this is part of my destiny. And this destiny has been created by my earlier karmas, maybe in this life or in my previous life. I don't know when I've done those, and that's why I have to face those kind of destiny. In our own life, we may have several situations. We have internal conflicts, family conflicts. There will be, situations where there will be court cases between family members. There will be a lot of disrespect, love within the family members. Then this gives a lot of pain and pleasure. And we need to understand that because that person is giving me, we always try to blame that other person, that why this person is behaving in such a way that is giving me pain. But this is due to my destiny. I have to endure this. This is my some earlier karmas. I should not get too much attached to it. I should try to see it dispassionately, though it is not that easy, it is difficult. But the Shastras tell us the ways we can see this. We should try to see the other part, the Pratipaksha Bhavana. See that situation, see that circumstances from an entirety, from a different perspective, from a different point of view. And then we will see from Sukha, when we see, then we see the other part, how it is going to this Sukha or this worldly pleasure. This is giving me Sukha now, but maybe the long term it will give me Dukkha. And some Dukkha situations, like something that is giving me pain or miseries, I may try to see that how I'm getting benefit from this. I'm using need to use my intellect, which is my best gift that God has given me. And with this, I can see the other side of the situation and try to get some more solace. So this is what is called as a, Samagra Darshan or Pratipaksha Bhavana. And make use of these pain, pleasure cycles, these dualities in our life to ultimately reach our goal. We should never, lose the memory of our goals in life. We should always remain in our mind, and we should try to observe our feelings, our emotions, not to get too emotionally attached to these feelings, vrittis. And this in psychology terms is called diffusion. Try to observe them. Whenever those engulfing thoughts, engulfing issues or depressing thoughts come to us, we should try to diffuse ourselves, try to disassociate ourselves from those thoughts, try to see them, try to clearly see them, observe them as they come, and then gradually they will go away, will not affect us. And this requires some kind of a practice. And getting identified to my feelings and my thoughts is due to ignorance, and this is the area of my efforts. Most of the times people feel that yes, this is my swabhava, this is my basic nature, how can I change it? But this is, the Shastras teach us that this is an area of my efforts. This is the area where I can do some purushartha. This is not the area of my prarabdha or destiny. I can work on it, I can try to change this. This association is so strong, but I can, with understanding, with knowledge, I can change this, and I can disidentify from my feelings. And this is how I can rise above this pain pleasure cycle. And that is the only way I can understand this Atma Gnana or the self-knowledge that Bhagwan is talking about. Without getting samatva in our worldly endeavors, our worldly behaviors, in our conduct, it is impossible to understand this Atma Gnana. So some level of Shuddhi is essential. And to obtain the divine knowledge is also my free will. It is not my destiny that I am going to one day get this knowledge. I have to keep trying and go gradually, because it's a very slow process, changing our sanskaras, our strong impressions that we have been having for years and many lives. It is very difficult to change. Only by constant hammering by gurus and Vedanta words, we can understand this divine knowledge, this divinity, how we can then feel it. Ultimately, it's our own self. We can Sakshat Aparoksha, we can experience this, our own self, this divinity within us. And this is not a matter of destiny. This is a matter that I have to try, and it's my free will. So essentially what I need to do is to change my own attitude. Vedant showing me the mirror in front of me, telling me that I am the problem, and I should stop looking around for problem. I should stop trying to change others for giving me peace of mind. It is my own endeavor, it is my own efforts that will give me, it is my own understanding which will help me, and I don't need to keep changing others. Now in the next shloka, Bhagavan is answering the third question, Kimasita, how does it sit, means what is the mind control of this person, and Bhagavan is essentially talking about Indriya Sanyam and giving us an example of turtle. Yada samharate chayam kurmongani vasarvashah Indriyan indriyarthebhyah tasya pragnya pratisthita. Bhagavan says, Yada, when, just as samharate cha ayam kurmah angani iva sarvasha, just as a turtle withdraws all its limbs into its shell, Indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya pragnya pratisthita. When one draws all the sense organs from the objects, only then that person attains the firm wisdom, becomes a Sthitapragnya. Bhagavan says, and this is only possible by Indriya Sanyama. Bhagavan is starting a fresh, a very, very important, essential part of the sadhana, Indriya Sanyama. And this awareness in our conduct, in our Indriya, is only possible by Mana Sanyama, by restraint of our mind, balancing our mind. And this essentially in turn is only can be achieved by the understanding, the right kind of knowledge in our intellect. And that is a sign of the wise person. Bhagavan says only with Indriya Sanyama we can reach towards the Sthitapragnya. Without this is the first step to reaching towards Sthitapragnya, because Indriya are the most important, because they interact with the outside world, and these Indriyas are the ones which need to be restrained. So Indriya Sanyama is the sense control. The Indriya are very, very naturally very active. They are very outgoing. They are Bahirmukha. They are very chanchala, they are wavering constantly, they want to go here, they want to understand, get some knowledge. So these Indriyas are essentially, we have 10 Indriyas according to our Shastras, 5 are Gnanendriyas, 5 are Karmendriyas. Here we are talking about the 5 Gnanendriyas which gather the knowledge from the outside world. The 5 Karmendriyas help us to do our actions, our work. The 5 Gnanendriyas are the Shotrendriya, the power of hearing, Chakshudendriya, the power of seeing, Tvagendriya, the power of touch, Rasanendriya, the power of taste, and Gnanendriya, the power of smell. These are the 5 Gnanendriyas. These are all always active. We know that we cannot even sit in silence for 2 minutes. There is some noise, we would like to open our eyes and see what is there. So this shows that our Indriyas are very powerful. They just are, they want to go out and see what is happening. They want to listen, they want to touch, they want to feel, they want to taste. You want to go to this restaurant, that restaurant, taste everything. All these constantly it is active and Bahirmukha. And that is one of the reasons why we are not able to understand our Atma Tattva. So these objects and then the Indriyas we contact, they actually work as reporters. The Indriyas collect all this information and lead it and give it to the mind. The mind is the one that processes all this information. And all this Jnana then happens in the mind. And that is controlled by our intellect. So mind gives a little bit different options, that this is what I'm seeing, this is the reporting, this is the touch, this is the form, this is the shape, this is the size, this is the object which I'm seeing, this is and then the mind gives different options how to respond, and then the intellect works on this, gives a firm decision on this. The subject says that yes, you do this, and then the Karmendriyas will go and do the action. So this is how normally how we perceive and how we act and will live. Now in this, the mana is at the center, the Vishaya are outside, the Indriyas are the power, it's a Sukshma Shakti which comes in the contact with these Vishayas and processes all the information to the mana. Now mana, on the inner side there is Buddhi, and then there is our Atma Tattva which is our strong, our Sakshi Bhava. And there are 2 ways the mana can respond. Bhagavan here says, Yada samharate chayam. The mana has to be samharate, means buddhi. Buddhi vyatishthati means with buddhi the mana gets, the Indriya Sanyama, the Indriyas are all withdrawn into the mana. But then in the other shlokas, Bhagavan is going to tell how the Indriyas can be Harati and Charati Pragnam. In the further shlokas, Bhagavan is going to talk how Indriya are so powerful that it will just run away and carry the man along with it. But here Bhagavan is talking about Indriya Sanyama. So Indriya Sanyama, which is called Dhamma, is done with efforts, which is a very important part of our sadhana to reach to Sthitapragnya. And then ultimately, once we do it with efforts, gradually the mana also becomes quiet. And this stage is called Shama. And this is an effortless situation where we don't have to give too much of efforts on the Indriya, but the mana becomes naturally quiet. So mana control or mana sanyama, which is also called Shama, is a very important part of our journey, spiritual journey, to discipline the mind. And this maturity of the mind takes time and efforts. The growth of the body is natural. As we become from child, become an adult, go to the old age, and then we die. All this is very natural, one step by step. But the mind does not mature along with the age. Sometimes even in the adults, you will see that their mind is like a child because they keep doing a lot of jid, duragra, a lot of insistence, persistence, misconceptions. They want something, they keep, they will keep asking for, just like a child. It works in some adults. So maturity of the mind is very, very important part of our life, which takes a lot of understanding, a lot of time, energy, and this gradually will become effortless and habitual, and this is called Shama. And this is the entire purpose of Geeta Ji, that it helps us to mature our mind, gives us the right kind of a vision, gives us a right understanding to see the world from a very different perspective than what we are used to seeing. And Bhagavan here gives examples of a turtle, kurma. Why? Because turtle is a animal which walks at a very slow steps. It has a very hard shell. It is a very soft from inside, and it is given a natural affinity to protect itself because it cannot run or fast from when the enemy or the predator comes in front of the turtle. And that's why what turtle does is that in difficulties, it will withdraw all its limbs inside its shell, and then it will just remain in the shell. And this is the way Bhagavan is asking us to withdraw all our indriyas when we encounter any vishayas. And the other characteristics of the turtle or the kurma is that it is very proactive. It is not lazy. It keeps utilizing its time because it can walk slowly. It keeps working. It best utilizes our time. That is what is the message for us. It is always in patience. It does not have any haste. You will not see a turtle walking very fast because it wants to reach somewhere fast like humans want to, as we keep driving our cars, we want to reach somewhere very fast. We are always in a haste. We are never at patience. We are not. But turtle is a slow and steady. The famous fable that the story between the turtle and the rabbit, you know that the slow and steady wins the race. We call it very commonly, and that is the main essence of the turtle. The turtle also has persistent efforts. It keeps walking all the time. It does not take much rest. It keeps making some or the other progress. Similarly, on a spiritual journey, we should also keep walking slow and steady. We should keep walking. And this combination of enthusiasm, courage, and constant efforts is very, very important with the goal in our mind. The turtle also has a very clear goal when it wants to reach where. And this awareness at every step, when the turtle is walking, it will, go a little bit steps, then see all around, see whether there is enemy, and then it will take further steps. If there is enemy, it will withdraw all its, limbs into its shell. And this is what Bhagavan is trying to tell us, how we can become like a turtle, and we can, be aware at every step in our life. And if there is danger or any such things that we see, hear, touch, then we should try and withdraw ourselves and not go further so that we don't fall into the ruin. Now, after this Indriya Sanyam, Bhagavan is trying to tell us that once Indriya becomes quiet, they are withdrawn, but still there is something called a longing, a rasa, which still remains, and how it can be, taken care. Bhagavan is describing in the next shloka. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drashtva nivartate. Bhagavan says Vishaya vinivartante, for the dehinaha. Dehina means the indweller, the one who commands the deha is a dehina, is the indweller, the jiva. For that person, for that jiva, Vishaya vinivartante, the objects have been renounced by the Indriya Sanyama. So Indriya when vinivartante niraharasya, ahar. It is all the food for this indriya. All these objects are the food for this indriya. But when the indriya feels that, okay, I want to be withdrawn, I don't want this food, it withdraws itself, niraharasya, and they don't feed on this food, then the objects are renounced. But then what happens is the rasavarjam rasaha api asya. The longing, the rasa remains. To understand this rasa, Guru Maharaj gives us a very simple example of a Ekadashi. On Ekadashi, when we do a fasting, we just eat once a day. The next time we eat fruits, we don't want to eat something else. And then whatever some good things that we have seen or heard or has been made at home, we will feel that, okay, today I have not eaten, but keep it for me tomorrow. Tomorrow I like to eat this. So that rasa, though we have got some restraint, some sanyama that we don't want to eat, but that rasa is inside. That longing remains. So whenever we do Indriya Sanyama with forcefully, there is some spring which remains inside, and then it comes out sometimes, and that is the rasa. And that longing, that attachment, that rasa remains. And Bhagavan is telling us how this rasa can also be removed. Param drashtva nivartate. Bhagavan says this only gets relieved by knowing the ultimate, attaining the supreme, the divine, the Param drashtva, Brahman, to knowing the Atma Swarupa, our own original self, the Ananda Swarupa, the Paripurna Avastha. For people who are devotees, for them, being with the Lord, being with the, doing some devotion, being with the God, attaining the Bhagavana, doing a lot of activities related to the Bhagavana, and then from there, the Vishaya Rasa will be converted into the rasa of the Lord, remaining in the moment with the Lord. And with this, we can come to the end. The next shloka, Bhagavan also talks about again the power of the senses, indriyani, which are very pramathini, very powerful. Bhagavan says, yatato yapi kaunteya purushasya vipashchitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. Bhagavan says, yatataha api. Yatataha means one who makes efforts, prayatna, jo kar rahe hai. The sadhaka, the seeker who is making efforts to go on this path, is understanding all this. And vipaschitaha, one who sees clearly, one who has viveka. Even for a person like this, Bhagavan says, pramathini indriyani. Indriyani, all these indriyas, the jnanendriyas, the sense organs are very pramathini. They are very powerful. They just shake you up. They will, all your understanding will be destroyed in a moment. Bhagavan says they are very powerful. Haranti prasabham manaha. They kidnap. Haranti means by force. They will take away prasabham. To take away the mind, mana, by force. Bhagavan says, so it is very powerful, it is so powerful, and it will just even take your mind away. And that's why Bhagavan says, Indriya Sanyam is so important for you, Mana Sanyam is so important for you. Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha vashehi yasya indriyani tasya pragnya pratishtita. Bhagavan says, that's why Tani Sarvani Sanyamya, control all your sense organs, be yukta, equipoised, be balanced, have restraint over your mind, intellect, indriya, all this. And says asita, have a very firm resolution that I am going to have a control over myself. And matparaha, surrender to the divine, surrender to our buddhi, surrender to the Lord. Bhagavan says, Vashehi asya indriyani, one whose all the senses are under control, under restraint. Tasya pragnya pratishtita, only that person's knowledge becomes firmly established in this divine understanding, the wisdom, and that only becomes Sthitapragnya person. So Indriya Sanyama is a very, very important part with which we develop Mana Sanyama. And Bhagavan in the next two shlokas shows the person who is unrestrained, one who is asanyami, what are the steps to ruin, what happens. Some of us will have experienced this situation when Bhagavan is clearly describing the CD, the steps to the ruin. Adhyayato vishayan punsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho vijayate. Bhagavan says, Dhyayataha vishayan punsaha. The person keeps on thinking about the objects. Dhyayata matlab dhyan kar rahe, chintan kar rahe, thinking kar rahe, and with what understanding? Thinking that with the Shankara says with a Shobhana Dhyas that this object will give me happiness. If I have this object, it will give me happiness. Vishaya means objects. And what happens is with this dhyana, Bhagavan says Sangata Upajayate. So from this dhyana, from this thinking, Shobhana Dhyas, he gets attracted, sangha. He develops a sangha with this object. His mind becomes attracted and attached to these objects. And these objects could be anything. It could be, any object. It could be a person. It could be anything. And with this, and a common example that Guruji tells us is a TV advertisement. When we see on an advertisement, say for example, our phone is not working too well and we see a new model of phone which has come up, we see an advertisement. With this, we start thinking, oh, okay, this phone may be good for me. These features are very good. And with this, I get attracted and attached to it. Okay, I need this phone. And that is the sangha that happens after from the thinking. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. From sangha, from attachment, what happens is that there is a desire. And desire becomes more and more intense. With more sangha, there is a more intense desire to get this thing. Sangat sanjayate kama, kamat krodho bijayate. From kam, if my desire is not fulfilled, if somebody tells me, no, this phone is not for you, don't buy this phone, then I'll become angry. No, I want this phone. So that kam turns into krodha if that kama is not fulfilled or anger. And this still, so far, it is all reversible. If we have awareness, if we don't have too much of anger, then still we can, and so far everything is being created. Even sangha is created, thinking, dhyana, sanjayate, all this sangha, all the desires, attachments, anger is all creation. The next 4 steps are all irreversible of destruction. Bhagavan is telling us, krodhat bhavati sammoha. When the anger is so severe, it leads to delusion, moha. I'm not able to see clearly what is what. And that's why I speak something elfel. I sometimes, speak something irrelevant. Sammohat, what happens is smruti vibhramaha. All that is there in my memory, in my smruti, whatever good sanskaras, what I have learned since childhood, what my parents have taught me, what my teachers have taught me, what my guru, shastra, all have taught me, all this is lost. Smruti vibhramaha. With this smruti vibhranshat buddhi nasha. And this memory is a very important part of my intellect. With this loss of memory, my intellect is also destroyed. And with the loss of intellect, the destruction of the intellect, which essentially determines or defines our humanity, I cease to be a human. I indulge in more, violent activities, sometimes become violent to others, sometimes give pain, miseries to others, speak something, or by my actions or by my words, I cause the destruction of the person. That destroys me as a person, and this is an irreversible process. So these are the 8 steps to ruin that Bhagavan says for the person who is not unrestrained, who is asayami, does not have restraint over the parts of our own mind. In the next verse, Bhagavan is giving answer to the 4th question, Kim Vrajeta, how does this person walk, who is a Sthitapragnya, and shows the conduct of the life of this person. It says, Raga Dvesha Viyuktaistu Vishayanindriyaischaran Atma Vasher Vidhe Atma Prasadam Adhikachati. So this person walks with Raga Dvesha Viyuktaistu, is free from strong likes and dislikes. When Indriyahi Vishayan Charan, when the sense organs move or keep charati means they keep grazing on the objects, because the sense organs always keep moving on the objects. We always, with our eyes we see different objects, with our ears we hear different things, with our touch sensations we feel different things. So constantly the sense organs are active, it keeps moving on different objects. But when this happens, the wise person, the Sthitapragnya person, is free from raga dvesha, from the likes and dislikes. And Atma Vashya Vidhe Atma, for the person who relates with this control or restraint over his own senses and mind, Prasadam Adhigachati, achieves the eternal peace, achieves the peace of mind. So what are these raga dvesha, the strong likes and dislikes that Bhagavan is talking here? And these are considered in the philosophy of the Geeta, these are considered to be the root cause of our problems. This intense raga dvesha, the strong likes, dislikes that we have for particular persons, particular things. And this is from where we have to come out, and dissolving this raga dvesha, softening this raga dvesha is the part of journey. And finally, abolishing this raga dvesha is the final goal for us to become Sthitapragnya. So raga means, pleasant experience, sukha vritti, something that we like, something that we always want that this should remain with me. Suppose there is a thing or the thing that gives us joy or pleasant feeling, we want that thing should remain with me. And then I get a desire to have that thing always with me. With this, if that does not come with me to me, then there is a greed that comes and there is an attachment. So all this comes along with raga vritti. So raga is a sukha vritti. In contrast, dvesha is the dukha vritti, means an unpleasant experience or an unpleasant sensation. Any person, any object which gives me unpleasant experience, I don't want that person to be with me. I don't want that person should come to me, talk to me, or interact with me. I want that person to get rid away from me. And that dukkha vritti, that is the dvesha vritti. And then if that does not happen, that person repeatedly comes to me, then I develop an anger or sometimes become violent because that my ichha, my desire is not fulfilled. So this is the dvesha vritti. So raga dvesha, according to Bhagavad and Geeta ji, they stay in our mind in a very dormant stage when the indriya keep moving, and how it brings the knowledge to our mind, and then it is being processed. This raga and dvesha will become alert, and accordingly our mind will process the information. So our entire spiritual journey is to dissolve this raga dvesha. Only then we can have this peace of mind or tranquility. So this mind control, indriya sanyam, requires a lot of training. It requires this sadhana, which is very important, from our strong likes, dislikes about people, persons, situations, circumstances, to going to equanimity, how we can deal and remain equipoised in all these situations. And Bhagavad Gita is a treatise that treats us or teaches us this how to have this journey. And the picture itself depicts how we can achieve this from raga dvesha to samatva. The indriya are akin to the horses, because the horses are very powerful, very chanchala, they want to go here, there, others. They are very always wavering, and that's why indriya are compared to the horses. The mana is like a lagam. Lagam is the string that controls the horses, so that the horses will go in a particular direction. Our mind should be like a lagam, so that it can control this indriya. And the buddhi is like a sarathi. Sarathi is the charioteer. The person who holds the lagam and controls the horses is the buddhi. And our intellect should control our mind. In turn, our mind will control the horses or the indriya. And here in Geeta ji, none other than Lord Krishna himself is a charioteer. So if we give our mana buddhi in the hands of the Lord, if he is trying to control our indriya, then definitely there will be a much better control. And that's what Bhagavan is going to tell us. And this maturity of our mind is the true success in life in the context of Geeta. Geeta tells us that it's not that we have a lot of external possessions, wealth and other name, fame. Those are not the true success in life. The true success of life is measured from how our mind is matured enough to take care of these raga, dvesha, how much samatva, equanimity we have in our life, how much satisfaction, santosha do we have in our life, how much peace of mind do we have in our life. That is a true measure of our success in life. So Bhagavan is telling us what is the benefit of this sense control, indriya sanyam, and what is the connection between it and the peace of mind. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishthate. Bhagavan says, when mind becomes peaceful, then all the miseries disappear. Hani, all this pain, miseries, asya upajayate. It is not that those situations doesn't come to this person, Sthitapragnya person, that miserable situation, that disrespectful situation, those difficulties, disasters, all these unexplained emergencies or problems will come up in the life of that person also. But that person does not identify with it, does not see that, gives so much of importance to it, doesn't associate with that person, and that's how these miseries disappear. And for the person who is at peace, prasanna chetasaha, buddhi paryavatishtate, buddhi, intellect becomes very firm, it becomes like a sthitapragnya. So peace of mind is the way, indriya sanyama, peace of mind, and intellect becomes more firm, sthitapragnya. That is the link that Bhagavan is showing. And the peace of mind, prasada, happiness, Guruma tells us that it should be our first priority, it should be our non-negotiable priority. We generally in our life, we give a lot of priority to other external things, all our possessions and all our what are our ambitions. We give a lot of priority to a lot of other things in life, not to our peace of mind. In the process, we keep working endlessly in our life and getting a lot of disturbances of our life, getting attached to so many other things, and that's why we do not get that peace. The attitude for us, Guruji tells us, is that we should be happy or have a joy towards the people who are successful, for our friends who are with us, for our juniors who have become successful in life. We should have happiness or joy for them. Compassion for the needy. For the needy, we should not have a kind of an attitude that, they should suffer, that is because of their karma. We should not have that kind of attitude, but a compassion for the needy. And for the greedy, we should not always keep complaining about the greedy people. Try to disregard them as much as we can, considering that this is their karma and this is their karma phala, that they are going to suffer for that, for whenever it comes to them. And we should try and avoid. These are the basic vices. Smoking, alcohol, and others are not the main vices. The main vices are inside us. All these asuri sampatti, the jealousy, the greed, the disrespect, the anger, a lot of desires, all this we need to avoid. We should not avoid to do major on minor things, and because only from minor things the conflicts start, and then it creates a big problem in the family, between spouses, between children and the parents. All this starts from very minor things. So here Bhagavan is telling us to avoid and learn from the learned Guru how we can deal with all these situations. The secret of peace that Guru Ma tells us is attained with the help of satisfaction, with santosha, and the attitude of letting go of things, letting go of a lot of things, that gives us the peace of mind. And if we need to experience this. Once we start doing this, then we will see how much it gives us the peace of mind, and then gradually we can extend this attitude to a lot of other areas of our life. And Bhagavan is telling us that the person who is unrestrained cannot be ever happy or be at peace. Ayukta. Who is that person? Nasti buddhirayuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shantihi ashantasya kutah sukham. Bhagavan says that ayukta person, one who is not restrained, one does not have balance, his knowledge is not firm, and is not able to contemplate. And for the person who is not contemplative, does not introspect, there is no peace of mind. And for a person, Bhagavan says, ashantasya kutah sukham. A person who is ashanta, who is not happy with himself or herself, how can that person have happiness? That person who is not at peace with its own self can never be happy. In essence, Bhagavan is trying to tell us that peace of mind and happiness, they go hand in hand. Happiness is not in external objects. The happiness is there from our own peace of mind. If we are peaceful with ourselves, if we are happy with our own self, then that is the real peace that we will have. And then Bhagavan is again telling us how the Indriya are so powerful. Again, he's again reminding us, Indriyanam hi charatam yan manonu vidhiyate tadasya praharati prajnam vayurnavamibambasi. Then Bhagavan is giving an example of a boat and telling us, Indriyanam hi charatam. This Indriya, sense organs, keep roaming in different objects. Charatam. Charati means they keep grazing in different objects. They will just touch those objects and go ahead. Yata manaha anuvidhyate. And the mind also follows the senses, because tadasya harati prajnam. Prajna means our intellect also kidnaps by force because it is so powerful. Vayu nam imam basi. Just like a wind blows away the boat. When the boat is without shut, then this wind, a strong wind, will blow away the boat. Similarly, our mind and the senses and the intellect will be blown away by this indriya. And that's why we need to be aware of all our senses and its movements wherever it goes. That awareness is what we require. And thus again, Bhagavan is stressing the importance of Indriya Sanyama, sense control, as a first step towards the sadhana. Tasmadhasya mahabaho nigruhitani sarvashah indriyanindriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratisthita. Bhagavan says tasmadhasya. Tasmad means therefore, because he has given all these reasons why we need to control our sense, what can happen, ayukta, 8 steps of ruin, dhayato vishayan punsa, all these Bhagavan says. That's why he says, oh, Mahabaho. Mahabaho is, oh, mighty one. He's telling Arjuna, you have won over many, many external armies, but now the main army is inside you. This main raga, dvesha, you have to control them. You have to, when all the sense objects are withdrawn naturally, Bhagavan is saying, tasya prajna pratishtita. When Indriya Sanyam happens very naturally, then that person becomes a Sthitapragnya person. And the next shloka, Bhagavan shows us the difference in the vision between the wise and the unwise person. He says, Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe. this is a little difficult shloka to understand. The literal meaning of the shloka is, in that which is the night for all the beings, the wise is awake. Meaning, in the night time when everybody is sleeping, the wise is awake. And that in which the beings are awake, that is the daytime, when all the beings are awake doing their work, it is the night time for the wise, means the wise is sleeping. So literally, it does not make any sense to us that when all beings are awake in the daytime, wise is sleeping. In the night time, when all the beings are sleeping, the wise is awake. Does not really make any sense. And that is precisely the reason why we need a guru, a learned guru, to explain to us what is the meaning of this kind of shlokas where we don't understand. So the meaning in a nutshell is that towards the world, towards all the worldly uh, activities, the unwise person, the Agnani, is awake. Means he is very alert during the day, because he feels that this world is a reality. He conducts with the world just like it is a real world. So he has a lot of time he spends for all the worldly activities during the daytime. Whereas the wise person does not understands very clearly that this world is not the reality. There is something beyond this world that is a reality. And that's why it does not give so much of importance, Mahatva Buddhi, to this worldly conduct. And that's why that wise person is asleep in the worldly afflictions or worldly material conduct. Whereas towards the truth, which is the Paramarthik Satya, what is called as the absolute reality, to that Tattva, to that Paramartha Tattva, which is the Tattva, you can call it Atma, you can call it Brahma, you can call it by any name. The wise person is always awake, because always contemplates on that Tattva and conducts in the life. Whereas the unwise probably has never thought that there is something of this, an absolute reality beyond this, what is seen. There is something which is unseen. There is something which is non-destructible behind everything that is destructible. There is something which is unchanging behind everything that keeps changing. That white person is just not able to even, never thought about it, that there could be something like this. And that's why it is said that that wise person is asleep in when it comes towards the truth, towards that paramarthik absolute reality. That wise person is asleep. So now again, if you read the shloka, you will understand, try to understand, in that which is night for all the beings, because the night for all the beings is towards that paramarthik satya, that absolute reality, the truth, which is called Brahma in Vedanta. The wise is completely awake, because the wise knows that this is the only Satya, Brahma Satya. Everything else is a perception. It is not the reality. Everything else, the Jagata, the Jiva, everything else is not the reality. Only Brahma is the Satya. And that's why it is night for all the beings. The beings are not awake towards the truth, but the wise person is completely awake. And that in which the beings are awake, that is the world and the worldly material pleasures, the beings are very alert and awake and always ready for this. And it is a night for the wise. And the wise, he is not sleeping, meaning he is not so interested in these worldly pleasures. That is not something that is going to give him too much of happiness, because his own happiness is from inside out. And that is the understanding of the shloka. And again, Bhagwan shows the inner state of that wise Sthitapragnya Purusha, giving an example of an ocean. His paripurna is so vast. Apuryamana machala pratishtham samudramapa pravishanti advata tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti na kama kami. So just as water enters the ocean through lots of rivers which enter the ocean is already brimful, but still, even when it receives so much of water, it remains unchanged. Similarly, when all the desires enter the Sthita Prajna, it does not create any change in that person, because that person's understanding is very different. Raga Dvesha has been dissolved. That it does not. It completely. There is no impression. There are no sanskaras. The mirror. His mind is like a mirror. And this is how that person has the real bliss, Sashanti Mapnoti, not the person who has many, many desires. We keep doing desires, bhoga, kamana, bhoga, kamana, bhoga. It will keep going on and on, the chakra. It will never give us the real peace. But by understanding that these desires is not going to give me the real happiness that I yearn for, with this understanding, when we try to let go of these desires, getting into the samatva mode, getting Indriya Sanyama. This is how we'll develop the real bliss, the peace, Sashanti. Bhagavan is showing us here that that is the status of this wise person. And the next final two shlokas, the 71st and the 2nd, Bhagavan is showing again the final journey of the seeker. At the same time, the description of the accomplished Purusha, the Sthitapragnya person. Bhagavan says, Vihaya kamanya sarvan puman sharati nispruhaha nirmamo nirahankaraha sashanti madikachati. He says, Vihaya kaman sarvan kaman. When all the binding desires have been left by this person, Puman's charati nispruha. Puman means a person. Charati means lives in this world, nispruha, without any longing, attachment to any of the persons, people, world, home, other objects, anything. Nirmama, without any attachment that this house, this person, this my wife, my family belongs to me. That kind of attachment, my and mine. This is my house, this is my car, this is my home, this is my work, these are my clients. All these attachments that we have, this person, Sthitapragnya, does not have this kind of attachments, because knows that his self is completely different. Also does not have nirahankara, does not have that ego, that pride that I am the doer, I am doing it, because this person knows that I am not the doer, I am akarta, I am abhokta by Swarupa, so I am not the doer, I am akarta. So with this understanding, Sashantim Madhigachati, that person attains eternal bliss. And for a journey of the seeker, the first step is the bliss stage, the Shanti, Shanti, matlab the bliss, the Shuddhi, because that is the first step. With this understanding, we can reach this step, the peace. And then finally, in the last shloka of the 2nd Adhyaya, Bhagavan shows the final goal for all of us, how we can attain this mukti, the moksha. Esha brahmi sthiti partha nainam prapya vimuhyati stitva syamanta kalepi brahma nirvanam ruchyati. Bhagavan says, Esha brahmi sthiti partha. O Arjuna, O Partha, O Puthaputra Arjuna, Esha brahmi sthiti. This, having attained this brahmi sthiti means with Brahma state, that Brahma avastha. Aham Brahma Asmi, I am the eternal Brahma, I am the Sarva Vyapaka, Shuddha, Purna, Paripurna, pure, eternal consciousness. This stage, once you have attained, this is a Mahavakya of the Upanishad, that I am Atma Brahma, that my own Atma is nothing but the Brahma, I am the Brahma. This universal state, when we have attained, that is a final goal for all of us, for mankind. Enam prapyanam vimuyati. That once we attain this state, there is no going back to vimuyati, moha. That moha comes from the Vaichitya dhatu, where our vision is colored, that attachment which colors our vision, which arises from ajnana, ignorance, that is, it is destroyed. Once we know that we are the Gnana Swarupa, we are the Brahma Swarupa, that moha is gone, that ajnana is gone, it never comes back again. We don't go back to this attachment. Bhagavan says, Stitva Syama Antakale api. Even at the fag end of the life, we achieve this state, this Brahmi Sthiti, Stitva Asyam. If we are steady there, if we achieve this, Bhagavan says, Brahma Nirvana Ruchyati. We will attain the complete moksha, freedom during our lifetime. The moksha, that freedom that we need to achieve, we need to understand. Vedanta clearly tells us that it is during this lifetime that we have to achieve this. It is not to be achieved after death. Only in this lifetime we can achieve this freedom. Freedom does not mean that we are bonded right now, but it is our perception, and we are already free. But we have to attain this. We have to know this Atma Swarupa, our real self. We have to see. We have to let go of all our limitations, our misidentifications, our misconceptions, our so many different layers that have gone around our real self. We have to clearly peel off from all these layers and reach to the, to the Gnana Swarupa, by destroying this ajnana. And this is possible only by this attaining this final Brahma Swarupa. So Bhagavan Vedanta is talking about this ignorance, is avidya, is the final which we have to liberate from ourselves. And this eternal freedom that we get is during our lifetime, which is our real Swarupa, Nitya Mukta, Atma Swarupa. And this is only possible with Atma Gnana. This is only possible with this divine knowledge that Bhagavan is giving us. Our Upanishads and our Vedas give us in our scriptures, And this knowledge is the only way we can destroy our limitations, our avidya, our ignorance, and which can help us to understand our own real self. And this, during our lifetime, when we understand this, we get this gnana, we develop what is called as a sadeha mukti, jivan mukti, which is freedom during our lifetime. And the same person after death, after his stool body, his physical body is not present, it is not working, then after death, that same person gets a videha mukti. That is, there is no more births and deaths after this final death, and that is where the individual consciousness merges into the universal consciousness, and there is no further birth and death. So this firm wisdom, Sthitapragnya, is a beautiful chapter which comes to an end now. And for a person who is already an accomplished, who has gone through this sadhana and who's become a gnani, I have seen in my own life, I have seen a few people like this who have reached to this stage. And for them, then it becomes very effortless to live in this world. They don't need to make efforts because they've already done their efforts and reached to this stage. But for people like us, for the sadhaka, who require a lot of effort to reach this stage, and for this session, this final session of the second Adhyaya will act very important because it will guide us to reach to our goal. It will keep us on our track when we are reaching the goal, and it will show us the milestones that whether we have reached our goal or not. So to summarize this Sthitapragnya, it starts from the 54th shloka, Arjuna's 4 questions. How would this person, this Sthitapragnya, wise person, what are his attributes, what are the characteristics, what is his response, how does he walk, how does he sit, how does he conduct in the world? And Bhagavan shows that he is sarva kaman manogata, and all his desires are gone. He is equipoised, samatva, he is unattached. There is a control of the mind, complete detachment by matparaha, yukta asit matparaha, total surrender. And we have to start from indriya sanyam, that is from where we have started. And then if we don't have indriya sanyam, the 8 steps to ruining of the person, starting from dhayato vishayan punsa, we keep thinking about these objects, that is the beginning of the ruin. And from this thinking that the desires spring, from there the krodha, and from krodha smruti vibhramaha, and smruti pranshat, buddhi nashat pranashyati. And by restraint we can develop this peace of mind, prasada. And then who does not have a restraint, that ashantasya kuta sukham, this person will never be happy. And Bhagavan says indriya sanyama is the most important. Tasmadasya mahabaho nigruhitani sarvashaha. All your indriya sanyam and the attitude of the firm knowledge, yavan arthapudapane, the apuryamana machala pratishtam, how this person is like an ocean. And finally the ultimate goal, the shanti shuddhi sashanti vadigachati, and finally esha brahmi siddhi partha, and that moksha, even that is during the lifetime that we need to achieve this and become liberate from all our limitations. So with this we come to the end of the second Adhyaya. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shree Krishna Arjuna Samvade Sankhya Yogo Nama Dvitiyodhyayah. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo moksha ishyami ma shuchaha. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.